like some of the best haunted houses that I've ever visited were the ones that were so dark you couldn't see anything.
Oh,
And that
but
was
something
what
touched
freaked
you.
me
You
out.
know, it could have been your brother, it could have been somebody in line, but still scare the crap out of you. I mean,
Yeah. Oh yeah. All you had to do was feel someone touching your shoulder and you were so freaked out.
you
But
were
yeah,
thankful you. Yeah,
yeah, I wasn't seeing anything. It was
yeah,
pitch dark.
you were. Sure.
Hi everybody. Welcome
Whenever
to
you're ready.
Elizabeth Cafe podcast. This is our inaugural podcast, and we have a very special guest here today. His name is Mr. Dave Chow. Dave, how are you?
I'm good. You? You're
Well,
okay?
I'm great having you on this episode, an inaugural Alizarin Cafe podcast. I have to tell you that, Alizarin, you and I are familiar because it's a color, right? You know about
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep,
alizarin.
yep. That
And is it
lovely
a
red
color that
color.
do you use it for any of your art?
No, I don't. No, but I remember in school, it's a poor man's, it's a poor man's red as opposed to paying for, for the lead-based paints. That's all. So,
Right. Right.
like,
So I
I
found
can't
out that
afford those.
it's organic because it comes from a plant called the madder plant and it comes from the madder plant roots. And I liked that because I want this show to be very organic in terms of our conversation. And then I also found out something that I didn't know. It's a fugitive color, which means over time it's impermanent and it sort of fades. And so
Oh,
I thought we could use that as a conceptual idea, referencing, the fleeting nature of life and beauty and experience and, find out a little bit about you, dive into Dave Chow's brain a little bit. So my first question to you is, what motivates you?
me. I motivate me. I run scared to death all the time. So, no, honestly, it's like I enjoy doing what I do. It's like, wait a minute, I get paid to do this? Okay, fine. I mean, honestly, I like to live life as much as humanly possible. That's all. I don't like sitting back. I don't like sitting still. I was probably the original ADHD kid before ADHD was even diagnosed, but I'm always jumping around. I don't necessarily need to like you have to do this. Well, no, I know I have to do that. So, I motivate myself. It helps.
What is what do you think when it comes to creativity and, what you do because you are a visual artist, and you and I met in art college at the College for Creative Studies way back when. What do you think, where do you think creativity comes from for you? Like, how would you describe where it comes from?
I'm just innately curious, about the world, about myself. Like, oh, wait a minute, I can take a blank piece of paper or a canvas or whatever, and I'm suddenly putting down a mark and seeing where it goes. So I'm just curious to see, where the pen goes next. So I just hang on for the ride. I just let the pen do its thing. So yeah, like I said, I'm curious about what I can do. I'm curious about what I see in nature as well. So all
You
around
know,
me.
when I'm teaching the subject matter of figure drawing and anatomy and stuff, which
Mhm.
that's what I do.
Not as
Um,
well as you do, but yeah, I know my anatomy ish. So
well, Leonardo da Vinci always comes to mind, and he's someone that, try to point to when people are asking questions about some of the things we're talking about. So when it comes to Leonardo, one of the things that I've discovered is that the word curiosity applies to how he sort of perceived everything in life. So do you find yourself taking that to all facets of who
oh,
you are, Dave Chow?
totally, totally. I'm always down 1,001 rabbit holes. Yeah, it's like right about now. It's like if you just if I get three square meals and you put me in front of YouTube, I could be here all day watching, learning all kinds of weird, obscure little things down the road. That's also I'm always curious about everything. Whether it's mechanical, whether it's nature, whatever. I'm always looking and I always want to experience life somehow, some way.
So when we talk about that sort of curiosity, um, and it leads you, like you said, through life, it leads you down different paths. Um, I'm just curious to find out like how you might, if you were creating your own sketches, your own personal sketches, because I know that you keep sketchbooks all the time and you get to create whatever you want in there because it's not for clients and that's the joy of it. So the curiosity for me when you're talking about that, I I'm interested in finding out like how does that curiosity blossom for you within a blank page of a sketchbook? How does something come out of there?
I guess, it's like, like you and I, we could both look at the same potted plant or whatever. And I respect what you see, but I also have a vision of it too. So, we all have, we could all look at the same thing and draw it differently. And I find that absolutely fascinating. So, if I'm, like say tonight, I'm fascinated with Bigfoot or whatever, I'm going to draw Bigfoot, but my own take on it. I'm not going to do it photographically. I can ask you and 1,001 other people to draw Bigfoot. We're all going to have different takes on it. So I just kind of like exploring, well, here's my take on it. Or what if I mash two things together like Bigfoot roller skating or something like that? I like throwing all kinds of weird things together and just seeing where it goes. It's kind of like cooking, that's all. But you throw weird ingredients together and you might come out with something edible and you might come out with mud. But I'm willing to try.
Do you think that growing up in the time period that you grew up and we had Mad Magazine, which I know I've seen you put
Near and dear.
posts, tribute posts to the artists and writers from that magazine. Um, but in addition to that, we had shows like The Ghoul and Sir Graves. Um, you know, those shows, along with Mad Magazine and other things, I think really sort of piqued my curiosity for wanting, like you just said, doing something weird. And right when you said that, those shows popped into my head, and I was thinking that was some of the weirdness from my childhood. So how do you resonate with that? How do you connect with your early experiences of that type? And were there any others that I didn't mention?
Oh God. I mean, yeah, do you remember like was coming home from school, Monster Week? The Godzilla
Yes.
movies, all those. I mean, they're god awful campy. They weren't real. Are they? Maybe, but it's like you looked at them, you laughed at them. I mean, I'm
Yes.
also film buff. I'm also like a cartoon. I like the humor in it. I like the writing. There's an intellectual quality. It's not just visual, but they were so outlandish at times. So it kind of like it tick. Like okay, well, I grew up around that, but now it's like you look back and like those are actually charming days. Because they weren't so serious. We had a pretty darn good childhood because, maybe things were scarier than they were. Maybe our parents just didn't tell us. Maybe we just didn't know any better. But it's like I'm good with it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, no, I think that a lot of what you're saying is totally true. And so, when we talk about different things like you mentioned the Monster Week with Godzilla and all that stuff, I totally looked forward to that. And then Planet of the Apes was
Oh
another
yeah,
one.
Six
Um,
Million Dollar Man, all those comic books, superheroes and stuff like that. Incredible fantasy worlds.
and do you think the fact that, we didn't have the type of special effects that we do now, like with $6 Million Man, they didn't have to do a lot to that show with the special
There's all
effects.
sound effects.
Yeah, to convince me that he
Yes.
could run fast or that he could leap as high as he could,
Run that film backwards.
something. So, how do we explain how special effects back then being so primitive could actually create almost more of a lasting impression than some of the things that we have today?
I I'm not sure. I think it could just be, it was believable enough at the time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Alfred Hitchcock, scene where, Janet Leigh's getting stabbed in the shower, but you never see the knife going into her body. But there's a little bit of storytelling, and you have to suspend. That's all. I think the theater of the mind is better than any special effect out there. If it's believable, it's good. So I don't
Like
know.
with some of
I love that stuff. That's all.
oh yeah, like some of the best haunted houses that I've ever visited were the ones that were so dark you couldn't see anything.
I know.
And that
But
was
something
what
touched
freaked
you.
you
You
out.
know, it could have been your brother, it could have been somebody in line, but still scare the crap out of you. You know, I mean,
Yeah. Oh yeah. All you had to do was feel someone touching your shoulder and you were so freaked out.
you
But
were
yeah,
thankful you. Yeah,
yeah, what I wasn't seeing anything. It was
yeah.
pitch dark.
You were in the ticket line.
Yeah,
You know, you
I
weren't
was
even in the
still in the
haunted house
ticket
yet.
line.
Thank God I was wearing brown pants. You know what I mean? Whew.
Gosh. Well, speaking of haunted houses, how does Dave Chow celebrate this time of year? It's October. We know Halloween's coming up, but it's the better part of fall, all the good things that go with it. How do you celebrate this time of year?
I don't know. You know, I'm not sure I really celebrate. I mean, we give out Halloween candy. We have kind of a Halloween theme thing. You know, one of the neighbors down the block has a huge haunted house that he throws a block party for everyone.
Wow. That's cool. Do
So
you
yeah,
go there on Halloween night to the haunted
no,
house?
he actually has it before this year. But
Beautiful.
we've got two brand new neighbors across the street, and is there, both of them are young, young people, and they're like, oh wow, it's our first trick or treat, so they bought all this candy thinking they're gonna have a mob, mob full of kids, and sadly on my street we don't have a lot of kids, like 20, 30 at most. So last year, I didn't want to disappoint them, so I'm gonna talk to them the next couple of days. Hey guys, you want to do, like, you guys want to do hot dogs, you want to do fried rice, you want to do jello shots, you want to do something, you do an adult Halloween and still give out Halloween candy so that way we can still enjoy Halloween. So I don't know. I'm just gonna get out there and just hang out with my neighbors. That's all. Hopefully the weather's decent.
Something comes to mind that you and I have a connection with, and that is being at the College for Creative Studies and both being on the student government. I always have to bring that up every time we're
Always,
together
always.
because we share that, and
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
And honestly, I can't. I think of those years. I mean, they were by far the most fun. We grew up. We had a lot. We were given a lot of freedom, a lot of responsibility. I like
Yeah.
we enjoyed ourselves, but we also looked out for our friends, and we made life better for everyone else around us too. I hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I remember we threw quite a few parties that we were in charge of sort of putting together. We had to get the food and they were able to give us money to pay bands. We got bands and then we got
Mhm.
decorations and it was a full on blowout. But Halloween was one of those things where we would get a costume contest together and stuff. So I remember someone came dressed as the Statue of Liberty under construction.
Yes.
Remember that?
Hmm.
And
I
it was
remember
like,
who it
I don't
was.
know,
So.
did they take toothpicks and form the scaffolding?
No, I think of straws.
Straws. Okay.
I think of
That
straws.
was cool. That was pretty original. And the Statue of Liberty was under construction at that time, so it
Yep.
made total sense. But what do you
Right.
remember from that party costume wise? You remember any other cool costumes?
I remember. Good Lord, I remember all kinds of. The fact that we were in art school. And it's toward the end of the semester. We are all under pressure to perform in our classes, but I don't care what it took. We built Halloween costumes. We we spent that time. Okay, I know that homework is due on Monday, but I'm going to spend another 20 minutes with foam core and glue and staples, and we just did it. Was it
Yeah.
the most academically smart thing? No. Did that Monday morning critique suck? Probably. But it was a way to blow off steam. When you think about it, we had Halloween, Christmas, and the end of the world party. Those are the only three times we really, really blew off steam.
That's true. That's true. Um, speaking of that, like it makes me remember that, you know, friends from high school that went off to big universities and had these party parts of their lives. Um, my version of that was in the printmaking lab where I was printing all night long with, Bill Gardner. I don't know if you remember Bill,
Mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
he would be on one end of the room and I'd be on the other end, and we just print all night. And that was our version of partying, and we'd have some good music on. And what do you remember when it comes to that sort of thing? Like you said, the only time we blew off steam was these parties. So what was your version of what I'm describing?
I mean, we all stayed late at school. Those were back in the days when you could actually stay at school late and not have like security, like, okay, mister, time to go home. I mean, think about it. Back then, every one of us had to commute. We didn't,
Right.
it's like the closest friend you had lived like 5 blocks away. So, well, either walk 5 blocks or go home. So, you just stayed at school. And it
Yeah.
was camaraderie. It was like, you know, as long as you had somebody else in the classroom with you, or, like in your case in the print shop, you had somebody there. You
Yeah.
could bounce ideas, you could laugh, burp, belch, fart, scratch your butt. You shared the moment. And
Absolutely.
I thought, the biggest benefit that I thought that we got out of art school wasn't necessarily our education, but the experience. I mean, we saw what the industrial design kids were doing. We saw what the jewelry people were doing. Sometimes a photo person would come out of the basement. I mean, you saw what other artists were doing. And I thought that influenced all of us. And I think that's what's sad right about now with a lot of art schools, that kids are stuck in silos and they never really leave their floor and go see somebody else's work. I
Yeah.
thought one of the coolest things about what you folks are doing in fine art was like, you look at somebody's work, I don't necessarily understand it. I don't even necessarily have to like it, but I still have to respect how many hours, behind it. I learned respect. I thought we learned tolerance.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, Dave, you bring to light some very important things that you just mentioned about tolerance and community. And so we're going to have a triple dose of Dave, because we're going to say goodbye for this episode, but we're going to bring you back for a couple more episodes so that people can, dive a little deeper and we can ask some bigger questions to to you, Mr. Dave
Sure.
Chow. So thank you for being on our episode. We're going to say goodbye, and we'll say goodbye to everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode.